BHP Billiton, that's what we're here to talk about today. BHP Billiton. These are their half-year results. These half-year results to December 2009. Now let's put it into context and let's overview the environment, because in July 2008, the oil price was at 147 USD per barrel. 147 USD per barrel. Now, in December and January of December of 2008 and January of 2009, the oil price fell below 35 USD per barrel. So we're comparing them against results when there were record high oil prices, and then there were some very low oil prices inside of the same 6 months. So on a blended basis, it looks about fine. Now, commodity prices normalized last year, but this put enormous strain on commodity companies globally. And I think what's important to note, and I can't stress this enough, is that through a factor of combinations, not having been over-leveraged, and you can see that in terms of their gearing, much lower than some of their competitors, Rio Tinto, Xstrata, and as such, they haven't had to raise cash, come back to the market and raise cash like those others did at the beginning of last year at deep discounted prices. So in terms of being able to reward their shareholders for having hung in there with a much better quality company, that says a lot to me about the way that this company operates. Okay, the results themselves. 102.5 US cents per share for the half, and then the dividend, perhaps a little bit of a disappointment. 42, I think people were looking for 45, but that's all right. I think that they've got lots of cash reserves, which indicates to me that they're ready for a big push, ready for a big expansion. Right, so let's dive into contributions from their divisions. You can see it's quite nicely spread. You've got ferrous metals, non-ferrous, and then energy, and that slide is pretty self-explanatory. That's obviously from their results presentation. What's quite key for me is that they've managed to ramp up iron ore, okay, and ramp up their petroleum divisions quite dramatically to be able to contribute with that big copper base metals. So for me, they've obviously seen the trends globally. Okay, now the steel intensity per capita obviously shows where you are in the cycle in terms of, you can see China on the far left there, and it says China today and India today, much lower than where perhaps developing nations turn into developed nations. I'm talking specifically about South Korea because that's a nice example. Japan perhaps a little bit later. So you can see as people's GDP per capita grows quite dramatically, what you're seeing is their steel consumption obviously has to reach a point where we say, okay, now we're industrialized, and then you see it fall away. If you have a look at the revenue split on the pie chart, you can see that China is a big contributor, but there's other Asia. That's also very exciting. The other Asia, and I'm not talking specifically about Japan because that's separate. And other Asia obviously includes India, and then fast-growing Southeast Asia, which also have big industrialization plans. So for the moment, it is a lot about China, but I think into the future you'll notice that other big economies will start contributing. Okay, well, let's have a look at expectations, because the expectations are always quite high. At the moment, the price, and we're going to use the London price here because that's the one we reference in Johannesburg, it closed last night at 1978p. But expectations over a 12-month time frame are for £25. £25. So you can obviously see there's some juice in it, around about £5 now. £5.20. Now, if we turn that back into rands, the current price of 240 rands a share, we're looking at about $300 in the next 12 months. So at Vestact, we like this company not only on a short-term basis, on a much longer basis, just because we believe we're in a super cycle right now that should last anywhere from a decade to a decade and a half. So you can comfortably accumulate the shares at these levels.